Hey guys.
Hi, we're back again. Another episode of When Stars Align.
We have a whole episode about everyone's favorite sign.
Gemini. I say that so begrudgingly. I'm like, don't speak for me.
Okay, because Gemini is like I would say Gemini, Scorpio are probably like the most notoriously like quote unquote bad signs.
Yes, the signs that get the most flack. I will absolutely give you that.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't really know where that started.
Well, back in.
No, yeah, I don't really know what that was about. But I remember even as like a youngster being like, yeah, I just don't really get along with Geminis. Mm-hmm. And I think that was probably because, one, I was just reading whatever was online in 2005. And two, my little sister's a Gemini, and we didn't really get along that much growing. I mean, we were like, little girls. We fought a lot growing up. Now we're like, besties, but it's very, I think that's why I had my little guard up against Gemini. Now I can like very easily say it's one of my favorite signs. I mean, you're not really supposed to say that as an astrologer, but I do love Geminis so much.
Well, I always tell people too, like if there is a sign that you really dislike, it's trying to tell you something. Like if you have this consistent bias towards not liking a sign, and especially Gemini specifically, understand the duality of that sign. Yeah. Like, where are you holding yourself in a tiny box and not letting yourself be more curious, going with the flow, letting yourself have a shadow and a light side and embrace both of them with equality. So I'm calling myself out on my own flaws right now.
But yeah, we're going to talk all about Gemini today. We'll talk a little bit about Gemini season. We're not going to get into the details of it, though, because we have a whole June forecast episode coming for you guys. But, and yes, it'll be love and dating focus. But yeah, we'll talk about Gemini season. We'll talk about Gemini traits, of course. Yep. And then we're going to go through Gemini in love with every single sign.
Yes, I can't wait.
Yeah, so this will be good for obviously Geminis, definitely Gemini risings, but everyone else too, because if you're interested in dating a Gemini, or if you've dated a Gemini before, or if you're like, would a Gemini be good for me?
Yes.
This is the perfect episode for you.
Yeah, keeping yourself open to one of the most hated signs in zodiac.
Exactly.
Let us sway you back to an unbiased opinion.
And this is coming from two people with a lot of Scorpio placement, so we know what it's like. And yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited to talk about Gemini and Scorpio too.
Me too.
But where should we start?
Let's start off with the fact that Gemini is an air sign. So their element is air. Gemini, Aquarius, and Libra are the three air signs. And we kind of touched on this last episode about how dating within your same element is oftentimes pretty harmonious. You have this underlying trust and understanding of other signs within your same element.
Yeah, there's like a familiarity there. It's like, oh, you operate on a very similar wavelength.
Absolutely. So how would you describe air signs when they're dating, or the fact that Gemini is an air sign and how that applies to them dating?
Yeah, I feel like air signs are kind of known for like wanting options, wanting variety, really seeking. Yeah, exactly. Seeking novelty. Exactly. So I just like keep thinking about Geminis I've dated, and yeah, they are very curious and open. And I think it's never boring
at all. I feel like because air signs are typically very intellectual, they like to communicate. It's all of that kind of mind matter at play.
Sharing ideas.
Yes. Yeah. That when you're in the first steps of dating a Gemini, it's just like you never run out of conversational topics. They're so curious about everything that you have to tell them as well. Such good talking partners, pen pals on dating apps too.
Yes, they're definitely the best people to talk to on dating apps. And I feel like they have the best openers usually.
Absolutely. Like the combination too, because that Gemini Sagittarius axis, I'm like, Sag always gets its flowers for being humorous, but I feel like Geminis are quiet comedians. Like, they don't need the title or the accolade, but they will keep you rolling. Yes. I feel like I have my best ab when I'm dating a Gemini.
I love that. I'm even thinking about like Gemini rappers and how like Kendrick Lamar is hilarious.
Can I say, I don't know if we're going to keep this on here. I just got the A minor line yesterday. And I've been playing They Not Like Us over and over again just to be like, A minor.
A minor. I was just on TikTok, like looking at videos of people doing that. And then also,
the dances.
What is it, the braids?
Yeah. He's so good. And I'm like, listen, I don't know that I can fully stand behind either of them. I can't stand behind.
But even like Kanye, someone that, you know, is difficult to stand behind. Hilarious.
The
hilarious rapper.
Oh, they're so good. Yeah. And I mean, you take that into the dating realm and you're just like, you never forget the things that they've told you. Like, I feel like when I was in my journaling era, when I was deep in the trenches of dating, I would come home and just be like, I can't forget this line that was thrown at me. Like, they're good with the one hit quip.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I love a gem. What about, Gemini is also, it's an air sign. Yeah. It's also a mutable sign. So our mutable signs are Gemini, Virgo, Pisces. Which one did I miss? Sagittarius.
Yes. Because we already talked about them. Yeah. So you're like, but the mutable energy.
The mutable energy. So we get air and then we get mutable air. So like I always think of when you pour like champagne or soda and like all the fizzy pops up top.
Yes.
That reminds me of Gemini energy.
I love that, especially on a champagne that's so light and crisp already, but then like the bubble of the champagne.
And you like hold it up to you and you like feel all the pops in your face. Like that's Gemini energy to me. I don't know. It's just like constantly moving. It's flowing. It's bubbly.
Yeah.
It's like confetti.
Yes. It's such a good way to put it. Like, the fast of fast, like air being fast, mutable being fast. It's just light. Mm-hmm. But that also kind of lends into part of their reputation of not wanting to be tied down. Yeah. Like they are moving as quick as the wind. Exactly. They are breeze.
Yeah. Yeah. Having a hard time settling down. And I think because they need that mental stimulation and they're constantly seeking that like
novelty.
Mm-hmm. It's hard. I mean, the Gemini that I dated, it was the reason that we couldn't, continue is because he didn't want to settle down. Mm-hmm. He was out of like an 8-year relationship. Yeah. And was just like, I just want to date.
Find them.
Yeah, exactly. And he was just, I remember him saying like, I just want to date everyone. Like, I feel like I need to go on like 100 dates before I settle down. And I honestly like understood it, but yeah.
I almost feel like 100 dates is still not enough for them. Yeah. Like the one thing that I will say about long-term relationships is that or marriage really, mm-hmm. even if we go that route, is like you're either going to be married or in long-term relationships many times throughout your life, or you're with someone and committing to being in many relationships with that same person. Mm-hmm. So it's not that Geminis can't settle down.
Right.
Every sign has the capacity for monogamy, polyamory, dating around, committing really quickly. It's more so that their energy is so much more open to the idea of seeking that novelty, gaining that insight, finding that new experience through a multitude of people, mm-hmm. I feel, than finding multiple relationships with the same person.
Yeah. I mean, I'm thinking about 2 of my best friends who are fixed baddies, a Taurus and a Leo, and they're both married to Geminis that we grew up with. So
wow,
long-term relationships, married with babies, like, and I'm thinking about these 2 guys. I was just texting our little group chat this morning with all 5 of us. And they're so like wholly committed to their my sisters, basically, like their loves. But nevertheless, like they have so many relationships. They have so many different people in their life. They have so many different things happening in their lives that it's not just their partner. It's not just their nuclear family. It's their siblings and their friends and coworkers. Exactly.
People in their neighborhood.
Exactly.
Like these are the people that will know all of the baristas at their local coffee shop by first name, be on a first name basis with their tailor, with, you know, anybody that they're in communication with. They love that.
Yeah. Very connected. So yeah, again, it's not that Geminis can't settle down. That's definitely not the case. But I would say, like, even my best friend, one of them, they were together since they were 15. So they were each other's like first everything. But they're just extremely, I think, mature, and they always have been. One has a Capricorn moon, one has a Cancer moon.
Okay.
And they, in high school, were like, we're going to break up for college. Like, we are going to explore other people, do other things. And if we're meant to be, which we know we are, we're going to come back. I remember this so clearly. It was at her graduation party. And I remember being like,
also at a party too, that they're communicating.
Exactly.
Like, let's keep it
We were all like
light.
playing pool. And he was just like, yeah, we're going to break up for college and like do our own things and then come back together and get married and have a baby. And that's literally what happened.
I love it. They do have such a foresight too, though. Like, I feel like you can't embrace or hate on the duality of a Gemini and not understand how beneficial that would be to you being able to see all sides of everything.
Yes.
And I think that's part of what my Taurus rising has a problem with is like, no, but you told me that you loved me. So that means that you're going to love me for a long time. It's very much that fixed energy. And I know we talked last time about my Scorpio stellium too. So that fixed energy comes in with Gemini's mutability. And I'm like in such awe of how they can go through all of these various chapters of their lives that are so different.
Yeah.
But they have such a seamless way of tying all of it together.
Yeah. It's so true. I mean, I think everyone should think about, you know, your birth chart and look at the house that Gemini falls in your birth chart, because that's going to tell you a lot more too. For you, it's your second house. So it's a dark house. It's about money and finances and resources.
And also self-worth.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like the metaphor of it being material possessions, money, the value of things also plays into my self-worth being fully tied to that Gemini energy.
Yeah. For me, it's my fourth house, which is like home and family and where you're rooted. And I just find that Gemini energy just feels very familiar and comfortable for me. I'm like, I don't know. I just feel safe and like familiar. I don't know. I grew up with the Gemini. I have suspicions my dad's a Gemini rising.
Because you don't know his time of birth.
He was born 1940, probably like in a house. So, so yeah, I just love that energy, and I'm also very mutable. So I have Gemini and Sagittarius placements, as well as like Libra. My Libra Venus has a nice trine to Gemini. So I really enjoy it, but my Scorpio really does take issue with it.
Totally.
And it's very much like I always picture a swamp, and I'm just like scuba diving, like hanging out in the bottom of the swamp, like, you know, exploring the hidden depths, right? And Gemini is like floating up top. It's like that air, that busy air that's like where the flies are, basically. Not calling you guys flies, but if we're talking about a swamp.
Yeah.
And Gemini is like, I don't want to go down there.
I was just going to say, it's almost like them not wanting to be bogged down by it. And that was, we can talk about our own personal experience. I have one that I would love to throw in the ring just to talk about it. But I do think that is one of the fatal dating flaws with Geminis, is just when things get too heavy or too dark or too deep too quickly.
Yeah.
I think that's when they start to take issue and be like, is this really what I want? And again, the foresight comes in of like projecting 10 years down the line. Like, do I still want to wake up next to this person? And it's like their mind, because they're ruled by Mercury. That's a whole nother part that we have to talk about with them, is like their ruling planet is Mercury. the only two signs that are ruled by Mercury are Virgo and Gemini. So they have this propensity of getting caught up in the mind. But again, it brings them back to being incredible communicators, incredible community builders, networkers. I've always found that Geminis are great workers as well. And kind of tend to go into either their life's work or their career with a lot of ease and maybe too much ease. But that Mercury ruling, how do you see that showing up in the dating world or relationships with them?
Yeah, I mean, we talked about like the communication. I call my like the Mercury, the Gemini I dated like Hermes incarnate, because that's one thing about Geminis. There tends to be this sort of like androgynous nature to them often.
Like a Rudy Giuliani.
What?
You didn't know? I feel like that was like a whole big thing in the New York scene, that he was like very open about like being out in drag.
Rudy Giuliani?
Yes.
I didn't know that, no.
Because he's so multifaceted, man. Like they are multidimensional beings.
Yes.
Like the way that your friends broke up for college, it was like, okay, this is the chapter where we're not together, or this is the chapter where I'm this person instead.
Right. That's
Rudy
so
Giuliani.
interesting. Yes.
Quote me on it.
Yes. Well, I mean, even, we'll talk about Hermes and Mercury, messenger god. But if you see any depictions of Hermes, he often looks kind of like a little twink. Like,
absolutely.
He's hot. Don't get me wrong.
Twink. I'm very attracted to Twinkie.
Yeah. I mean, I'm really attracted to Mercurials. It rules my 7th house. So that's another reason why I love Geminis. I have a Mercury ruled 7th house, which is the house of relationships. So I draw them in. Like, anyway. But yeah, there's this duality to Mercury, and all mutable signs, all they're called double-bodied signs. And of course, Gemini is the twins. But yeah, there's a duality. And usually I tend to not find Geminis to be like super masculine or super feminine. Or at least, in the way that they present themselves. There tends to be this either oscillating back and forth, or just like this, I don't know, like this non-binary bisexual-esque vibe to Geminis. But I would say like every Mercurial type person.
Absolutely. And I feel like it gets put in this negative light, especially in Western culture.
Right.
But in indigenous cultures, being a two-spirit was like the most highly regarded human. Like people who were queer or trans or had this kind of embrace of both sides, because they were able to see all sides of every argument, every situation. And Geminis, with their ruling planet being Mercury, really do have such an incredible way of just keeping that alive. And I think helps everybody else who maybe doesn't connect as easily with that duality and that multifaceted nature to realize the benefit of that, to have people like this in society, and especially in the dating pool. Like, not everybody in the dating pool is meant to be your forever person, but that does not negate how valuable the finite nature of your relationship is with them.
I mean, the Gemini that I dated, definitely like one of the best relationships I've ever been in, and I learned a lot from it. And I hold him we're still very close friends. I hold him really near and dear because I did learn so much from that relationship and being with a gem. I mean, they really are gems. I love them. I mean, no, don't get me wrong. Oh, here's a fire truck.
I know, I'm like,
so there's a huge window right here, and it's kind of distracting sometimes.
I know, if anybody sees me just like staring off in the distance, it's so beautiful.
We're in Venice, it's a nice day. Anyway, but I was just gonna say, a lot of traditional depictions and like ancient depictions of Gemini are either of, twins, usually one boy, one girl, or a trans person, or even an intersex person. It's really about the duality of humans. So Yeah.
Absolutely.
Gemini.
How long were you with your Gemini? What was that experience like for you?
Oh my gosh. So we met on Tinder during the pandemic. It was around his birthday in June of 2020. And we talked for a bit, and he was just getting into astrology. And so he booked a reading with me.
I love how many of, not even just romantic relationships, but how many of your relationships with people start off in this way.
So many, actually. It's kind of great.
Such a teacher.
It's just Jupiter in the 7th. I'm really blessed. But yeah, I gave him a reading, and I do my readings audio only. And so after the reading, I took off put my camera on, and we just like hung out for a bit.
This
and
is the
smoked
most
weed.
Scorpio thing you have ever said. You're like, and then I turned my camera off, like finally came out of the shadows.
I just don't want to be looked at when I'm divining.
I don't blame you.
But anyway, yeah. And then we just would like hang out over like FaceTime and like smoke weed. And then finally, 6 months later, I finally had moved to LA, and he was like very Gemini at this point, pretty nomadic. Like he was kind of based in LA because his parents were there, but he was traveling just all around the US during the pandemic. So we finally met. It was oh my God, it was the best first date ever. It was a Cancer full moon, and we went to watch the sunset and the moon rise. The moon was becoming full as the sunset was happening, like max fullness. So we were watching it. We went on this hill, and we watched the moon rise like behind the mountains as the sun was setting. It was so beautiful.
This is in your 3rd house.
This is 5th.
5th house.
Yeah.
Okay.
Cancer 5th. Yeah. And so, yeah, and then we just like, I had just moved into my place, so I only had like a bed, and we got like pizza and wine and hung out. It was just really nice. And essentially we kind of like, then we didn't see each other again for months, and it was, I gave an ultimatum. I'm like, you're not serious about this. You're not coming back to LA. Like, why are you stringing me along?
Did he give you the impression at this point that he was more serious than his actions were leading on?
It was...
Or you just wanted something serious with him?
It was just confusing.
Okay.
It was all very, very confusing. I remember it was like all these like, it was like a Pisces Mercury retrograde. Like I was like, what the hell's going on? But basically, yeah, it was along the lines of like, you're interested in me, but here's the main thing. I couldn't tell if we were just friends. I was like, what's going on?
Well, because Gemini is the natural ruler of the 3rd house of friends. And
in yours, I don't do that, but
I love doing that because I feel like as much as it's like houses for everybody individually, I always tie thematically back to the houses because I'm like, they do give off that impression.
I hear you. I tied the 3rd house to the moon.
To the moon.
Because the moon rejoices there.
We need a whole episode on how we each view the houses.
Yeah, because we kind of have a little bit different...
We do.
Systems.
Like yin and yang.
Yeah, but they like overlap.
Totally. Venn diagram.
Yes, but I'm very like Hellenistic rooted, I guess, in my astrology. Yeah. So, and you're more modern.
Modern, intuitive.
Yeah. So, which is a good combo, I think.
Agreed.
But anyway, regardless, I think, yeah, dating him, it was, yeah, we basically like were on and off for a while. That's not even true. We weren't ever off.
You were like in it and out of it.
Yeah, we were just like really good friends who like really liked each other. And when we were together, we would hook up.
Yeah.
But it wasn't ever like romantic. Yeah. If that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
It was like really friendly. And actually the psychic I was telling you about was like, yeah, you guys were siblings in a past life. Like, you guys have done this before.
Also, 3rd house of siblings. I'm like, I know you don't have to get on my wave, but like 3rd house, me, it's friends, like siblings.
He's in my 4th, right? Like his Gemini is in my 4th. And he has a big 3rd house stellium too. So he just has that like sibling energy, I guess. I don't know. But anyway, yeah, it just kind of ended in, because we loved having sex. We had really... Oh my God.
Listen, if you want to have a good quickie.
Oh my God. They're so fun.
Never in my life have I had a better just like passionate in the moment, and then we have something to do right afterwards than with my Gemini.
Geminis are kind of at the top of my list now that I think about it. But anyway, we kind of realized like this isn't going to work of like just casually having sex and whatever. So we just were like, we're not going to do that anymore. Let's just be friends. And we're still good friends. We love each other a lot.
Love that. And
it works.
I honestly, with one of my longest relationships, I say that, but it was on and off, obviously, with a Gemini. I wish from the get-go that we had just decided we get along so well. We banter like crazy. We're interested in the same forms of media and books and hobbies. Let's just stay friends. Like this is the basis for a good friendship. But
it's because it works so well that you're like, I want this more.
Right. I want it all the time.
Exactly.
I get a little greedy with it.
Just get in sync so well. That's how it was with me and him. It was like we ate the same foods. Like we just like, when we were together, it was just nice and easy and it flowed.
I feel like part of that is from their mutable energy. Like Geminis being a mutable air sign, they have this capacity. People call it two-faced, but I call it chameleon. Like they're so good at being able to find the parts of the people that they're connecting with and not really mimic it, but go, oh yeah, I can see that. I can understand that. Like, let me get into that wavelength with you without it being false. Like I've never known them to be false. I've known them to bite off more than they can chew. Or maybe like you were saying with your Gemini, like put this image of what being together would look like to the point that you're hungry for it. With my experience with my Gemini, it was pretty flat out like, so we were together. We met originally because I applied to be his personal assistant.
Oh my gosh.
And it's so hot now, like thinking back on it. Like I was applying to be a personal assistant to this guy who ran his own company in the Hollywood Hills. And me, as a rural New Hampshireite who had never lived in a big city, let alone somewhere that had more than 2,000 people there populating it at a time, I was like, this is my dream job. So I applied to work for him. He's like, okay, I need you to come in this week for this interview. Gives me like 100 time slots of days and times. Like, I think we both were mutually like, let's blur the lines between work relationship and sexually attracted to each other relationship. And I was still living in New Hampshire. So I was like, I can be out there next week. And he was like, sorry, we're going through these rounds of funding. We really need the assistant in here now. So then we end up connecting on Instagram.
Okay.
He was already in a relationship with a Libra.
Okay.
Long term. And when I moved out to LA, I got involved with a comedian, as you do, being 21 years old in LA.
Yeah, we've all done it.
All done it. And me and this comedian break up. He and his Libra break up. I want to say within like a month of each other. There was just this very invisible string theory thing happening between the two of us, as two Mercurials do. We're just like floating up in the mind.
I love Gemini Mercury. I mean, sorry, Gemini Virgo.
Yes.
We'll talk about it.
But I end up drunkenly DMing him and being like, if you ever need an assistant, let me know. And he was like, I don't need an assistant right now, but I do need to take you out for a drink.
Ooh, hot.
We go on this whole tirade, like a couple years on. And then I was just like, I can't do this whole back and forth. Like we were just Molly and mushrooms and wine and this and that and the parties and everybody's
novelty.
So
it's a novelty
all of the time. And we did it well together, but it burns you out after a while. And we were like, we can't keep doing this. So we end up breaking up. He goes nomadic, converts a Sprinter van, starts traveling to all of these mountains throughout the US, and calls me after I had just gotten done with this like incredible little love affair with the Leo. You know, so I'm coming off like butthurt. I'm in a vulnerable place, losing a Leo. And he calls me out of the blue. This had to have been a year and a half, almost 2 years later. And he was like, I'm about to hike the Straits of Zion. And all I keep thinking about is how you are the love of my life. I'll never find somebody that I love the way that I love you. And honestly, I believe it. Like,
God,
the way that we loved each other was wild, but it just wasn't sustainable. And I really do feel like I had a psychic tell me that we had a past life, many, and they always ended in this power play where it was almost like Mr. and Mrs. Smith, like somebody was against the other one and trying to take the other one out.
Damn.
And I see it now. But I believe it. At the time, I'm like, oh, my Gemini, like, you know, you come back, you're going to hike the Straits of Zion. And then he's like, and I'm going to fly you out and we're going to stay at the Grand America. And like, you know, just the lavishness, the newness.
Yes.
Get out there, start it back up. A few months in, I have some really troubling life stuff happen. I had one of my family members pass and we were FaceTiming as I found out my whole family's 3,000 miles away. So I'm, you know, crying. It was a hard time with him at work. And he was like, I can't do this. And I was like out in the middle of the ocean at that point. Like, I'm like, no, this is when I need you the most. But it's that fly in the swamp with the scorpionic energy and the Gemini energy. So I couldn't comprehend. I was like, why are we breaking up? I go on this whole solo trip through Europe and I find out while I'm in Europe that it was because him and my friend had started sleeping together. Oh
my God. No wonder you are the way you are about Geminis.
They're still together. I'm like, no. And with both of them, she's an Aquarius, he's a Gemini. Like, I'm like, you know what? The trash took itself out kind of situation. They're more compatible with each other. But you can't.
That hurts.
Yeah. I feel like you can't wrong a Taurus rising with a Scorpio stellium and ever like expect me to have a good taste in my mouth about Gemini men again. I'm so sorry. Not for me.
I hear you. That sucks.
It was rough, but it's also like such a good lesson for me in detachment and also like watching somebody that you love be happy, even if it's not with you. At the end of the day, like, even if I never want to talk to you again, I'm never going to wish ill on the people that have hurt me because I want society to be better. And they're so connected to everybody in society that I'm like, I wish you the best. I need you to be good.
But that like inability sometimes to go there is that can really trip things up. My Gemini didn't have or doesn't have any water in his chart at all. So I knew that would never be sustainable for me.
Not for you. No.
And we've held each other crying plenty of times and we've been able to be there for each other, but it's still like, there's something with water placements where it's like we can hold each other in a way that others just can't.
And know that it's a temporary thing. I really do feel like that's the hardest part for people who don't have water placements. And more specifically, somebody who has a lot of Gemini placements is just thinking that the depth and the hardship or the challenge that you're in, especially emotionally, is going to last forever if you let yourself go there.
Or that you won't be able to handle it. But yeah. Let's talk about Gemini season.
I love Gemini season.
Me too. I do. I mean, for me, again, it's my fourth house. So it's always like I'm either going back home or I'm seeing family or my sister's going to come visit or just like spending a lot of time in my home space doing things. But in general, I just love Gemini season because obviously, at least up here in the Northern Hemisphere, it's finally like spring, like fully spring, almost summer, and
not too hot, not too cold.
It's just a nice time. Like the flowers are starting to bloom,
and for dating, it's a perfect time to be connecting with new people, getting outside, meeting people out in the wild. Like I always tell people, this is like prime time for just striking
Connecting.
up conversation with strangers, going up to a group at a bar and ending up spending the whole rest of the evening with this group.
Yes.
It's so chatty and flirty and connected and light.
Yeah.
Perfect for dating.
It's really, it's great to like get yourself back out there. And I would say especially a couple different like rising signs. Sagittarius risings. Well, let's actually start with Gemini risings. Gemini risings, this is your time to shine. The sun is in your first house. So definitely get out there because it's like the spotlight is on you.
Yes. And it's so much more confidence internally, like feeling that spotlight even coming from inside of yourself. Like,
yeah. And not to mention, again, we're not going to do a full forecast, but this Gemini season will have Jupiter in Gemini.
Love it.
And Venus will be there too. So we'll have a lot of really lovely energy coming in for Gemini risings. I'm excited for you guys.
Absolutely. And we talked about this last episode, but you know what sign rules your 7th house when you look at your rising. So for Sagittarius risings, this is also an incredible time because it's the opposite sign. So Sagittarius risings are having their 7th house of relationships, long-term commitment, connections being illuminated by Gemini season.
Yeah, the sun coming in there and lighting up that 7th house, as well as Jupiter. And for Sagittarius risings, Jupiter is your chart ruler. So this is starting off like a whole year of you being in your 7th house of relationships and partnerships. So lots of focus there, lots of new opportunity to meet new people, whether it's romantic or otherwise. You never know who's going to connect you to the next person that might be your person.
Yes. And that's also why it's so important to like, don't burn bridges just because it's not working out in a romantic sense with people that you feel that heart connection with, because they could end up being your best friend that leads you to a business opportunity, a romantic opportunity, becoming one of your closest friends. You never know. I think it's just keeping things light enough in Gemini season and understanding the finite nature of things.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think that is such a great thing about Gemini in general is like, it's just so connected. And it's like a Gemini is going to know someone who knows someone who knows someone. Yeah. Like, that's what I love about them so much. Yes. So yeah, Sag risings, this is a great time for you to be out there meeting new people, say yes to parties, say yes to events, get out there.
Swipe right.
Yes. I would also say, Aquarius risings, Gemini is your 5th house, which is all about pleasure and romance and sex. Excuse me. I like to say it's all things that spark joy. So like creativity, entertainment, sports, play.
Yeah.
But yeah, sex and fun and sex.
And sex, and then having hobbies, and then having sex after the hobbies.
Yeah,
but like, imagine too that for Libra or Aquarius risings, that this is such an incredible time to invite people into the fold of what you're interested in. Like, if you like to throw clay on the wheel, like asking this person over a dating app or that you've just become interested in to go, make pottery with you or paint in the park.
Or go see a comedy show.
Yes. But don't let them pick you up afterwards. Trust me.
This is also a great time for our Aquarius rising. So just like have fun. I would also say for our Leo risings too, because all of this Gemini energy is going to be in your 11th house of networks, community,
hopes and dreams.
Like collaborations. It's a really great time, again, to say yes to things, say yes to events, parties, all of that.
Yeah. It's such a fun time, I think, for all of us. Like, any time that there's a new astrological season, you kind of take in some of the energy of that sign. So even if you don't have Gemini natally, like any planetary placements in Gemini in your birth chart, you kind of start to understand through proxy what that mercurial, air, mutable energy feels like as you're connecting with people and the way that you're dating. And just allowing yourself to have fun. They're so youthful. This is like the time to really get out there and just enjoy the dating scene.
Excuse me. I want to talk about Gemini and the signs.
Let's get into it.
Let's do it, right? Okay. Gemini and Aries.
Gemini and Aries to me just screams like...
It screams. Period.
I was going to say screams like open relationships, screams like just the types of people that you see out like rolling down a hill in a park when they're like 45, you know, like well into
your
their
parents.
Listen, we need to do a whole deep dive on both of our parents' charts at some point, bring like the actually valuable parts to the podcast. But my mom is a Taurus and my dad is a Sagittarius, but my mom has her moon in Sag. Okay. And it's that Sag energy that keeps them like rolling.
Yeah, makes sense.
But Gemini and Aries, I'm like...
It's fire and air. It's like they fuel each other.
They do.
Yeah, I think it very youthful, very just like upbeat and fun, curious. Yeah, I think, I don't know. I can't think of any Gemini Aries couples that I know, but I feel like they would be just like the life of the party. Like, can't say no to an invitation.
Yeah. And even like invitations for growth. Like, I feel like that's the one thing that Aries brings out of Gemini is like their growth centricism.
Yeah.
So like encouraging them to get another certification or go back to school or, you know, try a new career path. They're just yes people.
Yeah, I love that. How about Gemini Taurus?
Hard to make it work. And I'm not saying that it's not worth the challenge, but I think they both have to be willing to encourage each other towards the same end goal, because oftentimes they have the same end goal in mind. But I think with both of these, it's important for Gemini to be open in their communication about their desires, to maybe play less of the coy game with Taurus and understand that Taurus can rock your world and give you so much novelty. Like, when I think of Taurus energy in relationships, it's like, babe, I'll do whatever you want.
Yeah, they're so devoted.
They are.
I'm biased because my best friend's a Taurus sun and rising, and her husband's a Gemini. He was born during Venus Cazimi in Gemini, like exact Cazimi. And Venus rules his chart. He's a Libra rising.
Their sex life has to be insane.
I mean, I don't want to think about them having sex. So.
Okay, back. Gemini, Taurus.
It's like my brother and sister.
Okay.
No, but they, I mean, I actually, because I'm writing a book with all of these combinations, and I just sent them what I wrote about Gemini and Taurus, and he's like, I did not consent to be featured in your book.
I love it. You put their photo next to it.
Yeah, right. Like, here's an illustration.
Love it.
No, but I feel like they make it work, partly because my friend has a lot of Aries placements, but that really complement his. He also has Aries placements too, Mars and Aries, but and like they're very Venusian. But I think it works because he knows what he knows what he has.
Exactly.
And it's not worth, like, I think, for Geminis, immutable people, or people who are, again, like really need that novelty, I think it comes to a point, and I think it takes a lot of maturity to realize like
what you're jeopardizing.
Yeah, what you're jeopardizing by continuing to just seek. And I think, the ability for him at least to like understand what he has in her.
Yeah.
And I think that's what makes it work so well. And I mean, of course, and she's just, they just like, I'll go to this. I think that Gemini and Taurus can get along really well when it comes to things like music and just like the cultural things that they're into.
Absolutely, because it's sensual for the Taurus, but it's
intellectual.
It's like igniting something within the Gemini mentally.
Yeah, so bonding over music and food and, just like doing activities together. Yeah, exactly. My friends, they rock climb, and that's like, they're both really big, into climbing. And yeah, just like the physical activities that are also novel, like that kind of stimulate you mentally, all of that. So I think it can work. And also worth it to mention that Taurus placements might have some Gemini placements, or Tauruses might have Gemini placements,
Yes.
and Geminis might have Taurus placements because they're adjacent signs. So that might also be something that connects you guys too.
Absolutely. So then we get into Gemini.
I knew a Gemini couple in college, and oh my God.
Is it too much to have two sets of twins?
Yeah, right? I mean, so the way I think about it is like they found their twin, like they found their companion, they found their other half. And yeah, I mean, there's so many different types of Geminis, right? And so it's like, yeah, I think it can work really well. Yeah.
I love the way that you put that, where it's like you almost come micro with it, where it's less about them being the twins, but really about this dualistic human who's trying to find their match.
Mm-hmm. Like the Lover's card.
Exactly.
Which is associated with Gemini.
Yeah. And it has same mirrored imagery as the devil. Yeah. So I'm excited to talk about Gemini and Capricorn because they're so much more similar than we give them credit. Yeah. And also like the intention and the outward approach is just swapped between the devil and the Lovers, at least. But Capricorn, Gemini, they have their own distinctions. But Gemini couples, I've only known one. And it's almost like they settle down, like because they have somebody who is seeking that new approach and the mental stimulation the same way that they are, that it's almost not unique anymore. Like they get to see what they're doing in real time. And if they're able to digest that, then with awareness say, do I really want to be living my life at that speed or in that way? And they are such a complement to each other. That's a great same sign couple.
Yeah, I think so. I think they can just bounce off of each other so easily that it's almost like soothing to have. So, I mean, thinking about like body doubling and just like coexisting together, I would imagine is really like soothing to both of their nervous systems.
Yes.
Yeah, I think it can work. Gemini. Find your twin.
I like it.
Yeah.
1-800 find your Gemini.
Oh my God. I would call that every day. Gemini Cancer.
This is another adjacent match. So it's so funny to me that Gemini is sandwiched between Taurus and Cancer because they're the two most like comfort, commitment driven, home nourishing body. Yes, nourishing signs. It's a nicer way to put it. And to see Gemini in there, it kind of breaks it up a little bit. But when we think Gemini and Cancer, I go back to like creating excitement within your own lived reality. Like Cancer gives this beautiful canvas, whether it's actually a physical home that you're building together or just this sense of safety. And Gemini kind of comes in and throws paint on the canvas. And I think of that coupling as artist and muse.
Okay, I love that.
When it works well.
Yeah. Yeah, I think this is what we're similar to what we were talking about with Gemini and Scorpio. The not really wanting, the having issues, having difficulties going deep and going there. And I think it can be difficult for Gemini Cancer because Cancer kind of runs through, emotion. I would say they are just more expressive in their emotions than most people. And I think it's a beautiful thing personally, but I think that, that can kind of scare Gemini away sometimes.
Totally.
So it definitely helps if Gemini has some water placements and can, reflect and mirror what, those Cancerian emotions.
Yes.
But yeah, I think I just keep thinking about, Scorpio's the swamp, but Cancer is like a tide pool. That's always what I imagine, with like little crustaceans and like, life happening. And so I think that it's easier for Gemini to approach the tide pool.
Yeah. Less murky.
Yeah, less murky. You can kind of see what's going on, dip in and out a lot easier.
Which they love.
Yeah.
And also with Cancer being ruled by the moon, there is that cyclical nature to Cancers. Like, as much as everybody talks about like nurturing and home body, it's like, I think about Cancer as this ever evolving human. Yeah. And even if it's moving at this speed, it's still going somewhere else. So there's something for Geminis to learn and take away from the Cancer relationship. And I think Gemini also helps Cancer get out of their shell. It just takes time with these two. So if you can stay in it and not get bored or give up at the beginning.
Yeah. It's powerful. I think Cancer is like really down to like have fun. Like Cancer gets a weird rep for being like only homebodies and like wanting to just like cuddle and eat. But I think that Cancers are a lot more like you said, they're ruled by the moon. The moon's constantly moving. It's constantly having conversations and doing a million things. And I feel like the busyness of the moon matches the busyness of Mercury pretty well. Yeah. I mean, yeah, they're the two faster moving planets. So it can work.
Agreed.
Leo. Gemini, Leo.
I think Leo likes to be kept on their toes, their paws.
Yeah. I think so too. I feel like Leo, I feel like anyone can be attracted to Gemini when they're in their like nerdy space. I think it's like so hot, at least for me. I think it's hot.
Even when they're a little bit of chaos.
Yeah.
Like if your nervous system or your background already works in that way, you're gonna be like,
yeah, exactly.
Gemini?
Give me more. But I think that here's where I'll go with this. Leo's ruled by the sun. We know Gemini is ruled by Mercury, and Mercury is the closest planet to the sun. And so we have that relationship of, this is my other best friend is a Leo with a Gemini partner. And yeah, that proximity of like Gemini just kind of like buzzing around Leo. And I think it's like a moth to
a flame.
Yeah. With anyone, Leo kind of draws anyone.
Seriously.
And attracts anyone. But I think that there's a special place for Gemini with Leo as like main confidant, like main trustworthy person in their life.
Absolutely. And it's almost like they're both looking for the same thing at a certain level. Like they want that. I feel like Leo wants the domination and the kingdom at the end of it, even if they're not like outwardly ego driven, because I don't think that every Leo works in that way at all.
Yeah.
I know so many quiet, humble seeming Leos that do their work as more of a craft. And I think you put it perfectly, where that mercurial ruled Gemini will just be like, yes, keep going, keep growing, keep learning, keep expanding. And what better way to shine than having that Gemini fan your flames?
Literally. And that's exactly how I see it. My friend's like a Leo stellium. Sun.
You've never dated?
No. We've been friends since we were like 5.
Okay. It's more like family at that point.
Yeah, I know. But she's Leo sun, Mercury, Venus, and Jupiter, all conjunct her sun within like 2 or 3 degrees.
Wow.
So she, and in the 9th house where the sun rejoices. So she is a star, and she's very humble. She's Capricorn moon. She's very humble. She's not like, she's just a badass. Everyone who knows her would agree.
Yeah.
And her husband, who has been in love with her since they were 15, has literally just been her biggest supporter. And again, like knows what he has in her and always has.
He's a Gemini.
Yes, he's a Gemini. And he just, I don't know, you can just tell by the way he talks about her, by the way, he treats her and takes care of her and their daughter. Their Capricorn stellium daughter.
Oh my God, what a perfect compliment though. With
Leo Gem. Yeah. born on her lunar return. But anyway, yeah, I just find that they get so much out of each other. Yeah, again, fanning each other's flames. I could gush about this combo for a long time.
I love it. Yeah. And then we move on to two Mercury ruled baddies, Gemini and Virgo.
I love this.
I need to hear about this from an unbiased standing. I'm going to let Kirah take the stage with this.
I love this combo. I mean, yeah, I think it works more often than it doesn't, honestly. And if you're used to just like being online and, Googling, you might hear that they're not compatible because we're talking about an air sign Gemini with an earth sign Virgo.
But they're both mutable.
They're both mutable signs and they're both ruled by the same planet. So they actually have a ton in common. I would say the way I distinguish Gemini and Virgo is like both are very concerned with information and gathering information and being connected and all of that. But Gemini more just wants to know.
Yes.
Whereas Virgo wants to take that information and make it useful or do something with it, essentially. That's like sorting it or organizing it or analyzing it. There's the earthy element of taking it and doing something with it as opposed to just collecting with the air sign. Yeah. So all that to say is there are differences, but there are so many similarities. And I feel like both are very analytical. Both are very like mental. I don't want to say mental because it sounds bad, but very.
We like being mentally stimulated.
Exactly. Both are very smart, just really intellectual.
The dirty talk between these two.
Oh my gosh. I can only imagine. You would know.
I think I love the way that you put it though, like just having the information and then the sorting of the information, because that's really what dating is too. So when you think about how you're seeing two people date in a same or similar way, but with different intentions.
Right.
I think that's where any of the diversion between these two goes, is just like, what is your intention underneath all of this? Because it looks so similar on the surface.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I find that Gemini and Virgo together just have this way of like bouncing off of each other, but also being able to almost like synchronize their lives and their flow in a way that's just, I don't know. I feel like it just fits. It's like puzzle pieces.
Yeah. I mean, in my situation, like our morning and evening routines were like part of our favorite times of being together, like him being like, I'll go make you coffee while you're getting ready, or, like taking enough time and waking up early enough that we would have time to shower together every morning. And, it's just, I think there is something about the mundane that Virgo makes really magical.
Yeah.
And I do think that that's where Gemini starts to gain such an admiration for Virgo, because it's just like, how do you make this otherwise very boring thing so fun?
Yeah, so fun. Again, that's like infusing the novelty into the mundane too, which is why I think it can work so well.
Totally.
And then Gemini Libra?
Yeah.
Gemini Libra, such a good combo.
These two are like
made for each other.
Absolutely. I feel like cut from the same spiritual cloth. There's so much to love about these two being together.
Yeah. I always say like every Gemini needs a Libra and every Libra needs a Gemini.
Honestly.
Yeah.
Like I think Gemini should always have a hall pass for a Libra, regardless of who they end up with.
Not my Gem. I mean, like if I end up with a Gemini, I don't know, because I have a thing with Libras, but we won't get into that today.
Okay. No, we'll leave that for another
1st September.
Yeah. We'll talk about the good and bad aspects of Libra, maybe on the next episode.
I don't have a problem with Libras. It's just my chart. Anyway, Gemini and Libra, though, I feel like, again, are made for each other. The air sign, okay. Libra is a charmer, right? Like Libra is very charming, and I feel like Gemini is too. I feel like they just bounce off each other, like the flirting. Yes. I would pay to watch a Gemini and a Libra flirt.
Honestly, be a fly on the wall. Yes. Like you're like, I know I was the swamp and you were the fly earlier, but now I'm the fly on the wall, and I just need to watch you flirt with a Libra.
You guys flutter around like little butterflies in the field.
That is like its own version of porn. Yeah, just watching them talk and flirt.
Or like audio like this. Yes. We should just get a Gemini and a Libra in here and just like leave them in the room together.
Yes. Okay.
And then put it behind a paywall. It's going to be too good.
I would pay for it. I would help produce it and then pay for it. Yeah. Okay.
We're investing in our own project.
Absolutely.
But yeah, so Libra is ruled by Venus.
Yep.
And there's that, Venusian, the creative quality, I feel like, to Libra, that is really attractive to Gemini, like the style, the charm, and like the taste. I feel like Libras have really good taste in music and just like things,
Absolutely. And they're also super well connected. So it's like you think about Gemini always being the one in their other pairings to like bring the community, bring the coworkers, bring the lifelong friends that turn into family. And it's like Libra sitting there and being like, that's child's play. Yeah. Like they have such a way with gaining people's admiration and affection that I think it's almost like a melding of the minds. Like they find this way of outdoing each other without it feeling like a personal attack. It's just exactly what the other one wants already.
Yeah. I think Gemini is really attracted to Libra's like just social prowess, I guess. Like just just Libra's ability to like make connections and do so kind of effortlessly. Yeah, I think they probably admire that about each other a lot.
Well, and like one of the most famous Gemini Libra couples of our time was Kanye and Kim.
Yeah, Kanye and Kim.
And I take that back about Cancer and Gemini, and this is really like the artist and muse coupling, because Venus loves to be admired and adored, and I don't know that there's anybody better for them than a Gemini who's just like gassing them up, words of affirmation all day long, like telling
Obviously, we're
them,
not talking about Kim and Kanye.
No, just Gemini and Libras in general. But I think celebrity couples are just a fun way to see these archetypes play out. Exactly. It's like two avatars that you get to watch and play these energies out. But in general, I feel like that the energy behind these two is just like magnetic and so devoted to each other.
Yeah, it's a really good one. We talked about Gemini Scorpio quite a bit, but I'm like, do I have much to add? I feel like it's just, it can work really well, especially when the Gemini is, I would say when the Gemini is willing to like go to those dark places with Scorpio, and when the Scorpio isn't bogged down in those dark places.
Exactly. Like almost like bringing Scorpio up, like getting to that point in their healing process where they're like the two people on the train meme where it's like one of them's looking at the rock wall and one of them's looking at the sun rising, and it's like, this is all that there is. And then it's like, this is all that there is. When Scorpio can come out of thinking it's all dark and serious and personal, like when they get to that really matured part of their cycle, but also when Gemini has matured enough to understand that they can take blows and they can take emotions and they can take challenge and not be lost in that process.
I feel like Gemini would probably feel very deeply seen by Scorpio, and I think that that really connects them as well. And Scorpio just feeling like, getting that novelty from Gemini and getting that mental stimulation. I could see it working, especially if Scorpio has like Sag placements and Gemini has like Cancer or Taurus placements.
I don't think Gemini loves anything more than opposition, whether that's like debating or like having somebody with Sagittarius placements that actually oppose them. It's like, they like the spectrum
Absolutely. Speaking of Sag,
I know.
our opposites, Gemini and Sagittarius. I mean, I think it's one of the best oppositional combos. I feel like it just works. I'm like, it's one of those oppositional combos where I'm like, when doesn't it work?
Yeah, it's so funny because with these two, I feel like there's always this crazy beginning story. Like, even if they met on a dating app, it's like one of them was just traveling through town, or like, you know, they were taking the same train to get to different dinner reservations. Yeah. It's like this feeling of just breaking through and realizing how interconnected we all really are. Like, they have such a clear way to break that wall.
Yeah, again, it's the fire and air fueling each other sort of energy. And I always think of Gemini and Sag as like the micro and the macro. Yeah. But I feel like, again, they can just talk each other's ears off and never, ever get bored.
No, they love it.
They just can talk forever. And I think that's why they love each other so much, because it's like they're each other's favorite companions. Yep. Always down to do, you know, whatever random spontaneous, you know, adventure. I think they really fuel each other that way. So I know I grew up with one of my best friends growing up. Her parents are a Sag Gemini couple, and they founded, do you remember the brand And One?
And One.
It was you remember? Yeah. It's like a basketball, like street, like basketball shoes and clothes, like streetwear kind of.
I'm so bad with names. You're going to show me a picture and I'm going to say yes.
Yeah, it's like a 90s brand that's no longer. But yeah, they founded that brand together, and they were always just like so cool. Like they would pick us up from school and take us to the what is it called? Not warehouse, but the manufacturing. No, but like what, like offices, I guess. Yeah. Okay. I'm like, I don't know, but they were
like, what's an office?
Yeah. Because there's another word. Okay, whatever. It doesn't matter. But they would bring us to the office after school, and there was like a basketball court there, and they're just like cool, like basketball players, the cool people hanging out. And I'm just like, these people are so fucking cool. Like, took us to Disney World as kids. Like, they were just fun and cool. Actually, one of them is actually a congresswoman now.
Wow.
Yeah. And
this goes back to the Rudy Giuliani thing. Like, they truly are dualistic.
Yes.
Was she the Gemini?
Yes.
Love it.
Yeah.
Like,
she was a teacher, all the things. She was in the Air Force. Like,
love it.
Very dualistic. But yeah, I feel like they can, and I think what stands out about them to me is like they met at Stanford. They went to Stanford together, built this amazing company together, but are both so much their own people and have just like continued to support each other. So you've probably heard of like Certified B, like B corporations.
Yes.
He was the one, the Sagittarius, he's the one who founded that.
And this is where I'm like, two mutables together are so unstoppable because
industrious.
Yes.
Yeah.
They just want to keep growing and showing up and understanding new aspects of people and businesses. Yeah. And I feel like society.
Yeah.
Like you're making major changes to society.
Exactly. So yeah, I just feel like that combo is so like limitless. Yeah. There's just so much that can, it's such a good one.
It is. Then we go Gemini Capricorn, which we
Gemini
were talking about with the Lovers card being Gemini and the Devil being Capricorn. No shade to Capricorns. It's just the way that the tarot works. But they both have this capability, I think, of just being really incredible partners. Like, I feel like the general theme that you might be picking up on when you hear these partnerships with Gemini is that they work with the person that they're with. Like they really do, I feel like at the bottom of their heart, want to find a way to add value to the partnership. So with a Capricorn that's always looking for value and investment and longevity, how do you see this playing out?
Yeah, it's interesting because they are so different. We have Saturn ruled Capricorn that deals with structure and boundaries and the long term
tests and challenges.
Yes, all of that. And then Gemini, which is like needs freedem, needs to be able to travel and flow and, explore. And so it is a really, the Gemini that I dated, he was with a Capricorn sun and moon for 8 years before he was with me. So I'm like, you went from Capricorn to a Scorpio?
Yeah. He was just looking for, I feel like, the hard upgrades.
Yeah.
Like the upgrades that would bring so much value to his life, but not a cakewalk.
Yes. But yeah, I think that it definitely can work, especially when we have a more fun, open-minded type of Capricorn, maybe one with Sag placements. And then same with Gemini. The more I meet so many Geminis with Capricorn placements.
Yeah.
And they, are their fun, bubbly Gemini, but they have this very industrious, like serious parts of themselves. And I can definitely see Geminis like that, maybe Geminis with Taurus or Cancer placements.
Yes.
Really doing well with Capricorns, the ones that really seek out that structure.
Absolutely. And I mean, when you think about it, even in like why bondage is a really big turn on for a lot of people, I think if the Gemini in that partnership is aware enough to understand how much freedom and surrender and letting go you get from working within somebody's structures and rules and the lifestyle even that they want, that this can be such a fun, experimental, long-term relationship if these two can understand who's tying who up.
Yeah. And I think, and they just need to be able to come to an understanding of each other and how the other operates. And I think it can definitely work out. But I feel like it's one of those, it's like, can't blanket say it. Exactly. I mean, with any of them, but the charts really matter with that one.
Absolutely. Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more.
Yeah.
Right after that,
Aquarius or Gemini Aquarius combo. Another really fun air sign combo.
Yeah.
I see it working a lot.
And Aquarius is such an eccentric that I feel like they don't even have to try to bring that newness and excitement to the relationship for Gemini. And it's like Gemini just gets to bask in feeling like they're dating someone or getting to experience someone who lives so outside of what they've known that it's always this fun, exciting experience for them when they're together.
Yeah, I feel like Gemini is so intrigued by Aquarius, and I think that Aquarius is so like captivated by Gemini, but also just like, you're so cute. Like,
exactly, I feel like Gemini, humored by them.
Yes, like, oh my God, you're hilarious. Like, stick around, sort of thing. Because I think Aquarius, like, both are very curious and both really love to meet people and learn about new people. I think that Aquarius might do a little bit better at actually sustaining connections. And Gemini just has a lot of connections, right? They're not necessarily as like, I don't know, I'm using the wrong words in my head. I was going to say thick. Like not as strong,
like a stability or like a density to their matter, like, because we go back to the mutable aspect versus Aquarius is fixed. So I think there's that subconscious knowing from both of us. When you see a fixed sign, you know that there's certain ways that they like things. And even though Aquarius is an air sign, they're known as the eccentrics, they're known as thinking outside of the box. It's like their box is just much bigger than the boxes that most people are living in. So it's easy to be like, oh, there's no box here.
Yeah. I agree with that. And I think that Gemini really appreciates the consistency of Aquarius because they're so fixed and ruled by Saturn. They're pretty like consistent people. Yeah. Like they might, whatever. They're very consistent. And so I think that Gemini appreciates that and like kind of appreciates that sort of, rock that Aquarius can be in their lives.
Yeah, it's like their similarity in both being air signs still gives it a level of levity. But I actually had a manicurist in Lisbon tell me this, and I will never forget it. She's like, when you are in a long-term relationship, it's very important for you each to pick your role as who is the rock and who is the kite. And I'll never forget that.
Wow.
And I feel like Gemini Aquarius has that pretty easy delineation of Aquarius having the rock traits and Gemini having the kite traits, and both bringing their own value to the relationship.
That's awesome. Yeah. I love that. The rock and the kite. Mm-hmm. And last but not least, Gemini Pisces.
Yeah. So this one is fun because Pisces is also a mutable sign. So I think it's easy at the beginning to write this one off like Pisces is so emotional and creative and dreamer and sensitive, and thinking that they don't have anything in common with Gemini, but they both have that capability of adapting. And I think that that really gives it the potential right from the get-go to be like, oh, our plans got messed up. Why don't we go out another night? Yeah. Like letting there be this juggling before they decide what they want from each other.
Definitely. Yeah. I mean, as a Pisces rising who's dated Geminis, I find that, the flow, it's just like, there's the levity is in that as well, where, like you said, you can just kind of, there's no hard feelings. Yes. It's just like pick up where we left off type of thing, okay, we have to pivot, let's pivot. It's not a big deal. And I think, like you said, they're both mutable signs and can do really well together. They are air and water. So again, we have that separation between, how to get air and water.
Right.
But it can work. It almost reminds me of like a fish and a bird, right?
I was going to say a river and a breeze. So I'm curious where you're going, and then I want to share this.
They're like a fish and a bird are very similar. They just are in, we're not getting to the details here, but they operate in different mediums, right? Or in different environments. Yes. But they're both flowing. And it's similarly with water and air. Wavelengths are moving through both, exactly. Right? It's just, we can see it in water sometimes, but I don't know. They're very similar but different.
I love that my mind went to the home spaces of both of your animals.
Yeah.
Like we're literally talking about the same thing. Like
we're in sync.
I love it. But it's such a fun coupling. And I see this being the type of kind of dating situation where there is just like no challenge too big for the two of them that would keep them from continuing to grow the connection if the connection is there already. Like such a fun pairing in the dating stage.
Yeah, that's a great way of putting it. I don't know. I think it can just, I think that Gemini feels very like mystified by Pisces, and I think that's part of like the novelty as to why they are attracted to Pisces. It's like, you're into astrology? Like, what's astrology? They just feel like, I feel like Gemini feels like they can explore Pisces forever, essentially. And similarly, I think Pisces really loves the like mercurial nature of Gemini, and the fact that they have a little bit more, they might feel a little bit more grounded than they are, even though they're, neither of them are grounded signs.
It's like understanding how they can be comfortable in their individual ungroundedness. Yeah. Like it's the same way Gemini and Gemini mirrors each other. Like I feel like Gemini and Pisces has that mirroring complex with each other too, where they're like, it's okay to be ungrounded.
Yeah, exactly. They just, I don't know. Again, they're just able to find that flow together. If they're able to find that flow together, I think it works. It can work really well. It can be a really creative partnership.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I love it. Well,
we did it.
I would say that's all we have to say about Geminis, but I think we caught wind of the mercurial energy today and tried to keep up with the Geminis out there.
Yeah. Hopefully you enjoyed it. More to come, of course. I feel like we should let the people know where to find us.
Absolutely. We have When Stars Align podcast taken on pretty much every platform now.
Yeah.
We would love
Instagram, TikTok,
Yep.
When Stars Align Pod.
Yep.
And then
YouTube,
When Stars Align Podcast. And on Twitter, it's StarsAlign_pod.
Yeah. We would love to connect with you guys.
Yeah.
And keep bringing more of these conversations to you guys if you're enjoying them.
Lots more to come. Where can they find you?
They can find me at _Meghan Rose on all platforms, mainly on TikTok, but also on Instagram as well.
Yeah, I love how you got all of it. Like, you're so consistent.
It's the Virgo in me. Yeah. Trust me, it was like the 5th attempt at getting them the same on every platform.
I tried that and whatever. We'll talk about it. I'm Kirah.world is my website. And Kirah World on Twitter, which I'm on a lot. And the astrology on Instagram. That's the main places I'm at, I think. I'm on Reddit, but no one should follow me there. We're excited to bring you more of these. Make sure you subscribe.
Rate 5 stars if you liked it.
Give us a review if you liked it. I think if you're listening on Spotify, you can ask us questions in the Q&A.
And we have a form in the show notes too to submit any questions. We would love to answer them on the show.
Yeah, you can give us your birth info, all of that. And we're going to do a whole Q&A episode at some point. So send them in. We'd love to take a look and give you some advice.
Yes. Stay tuned.
Bye, guys.
Thanks for tuning in to When Stars Align. You can catch us every Tuesday for new weekly episodes.
Be sure to subscribe, rate us 5 stars, and leave us a review to help more people find us.
If you have questions about your love life that you're interested in us answering on a future episode, be sure to submit them in the link in the show notes.
This podcast was created for Stars Align dating app. Produced by Megan and Kirah and edited by Chad the Maverick.